how to make this real, the raw material of it. You've had meetings like this all over US, Vermont, New York, all over Ukraine. I heard you give an interview in April of 2014 for public radio when you were at Zaporizhia, and you met with students in Zaporizhia, and you've met with students, name a city, you've probably been in it, talking to students. What are you finding there? Because if you think about, like, to have what in business school we would call a going concern, you talk about how do we build this country so that it develops step by step, that it's sustainable. What are you finding? And you also made an interesting point that really the market segment you need to change when you talk about civil society is just 10 to 15% of the overall population. So what are you finding when you're talking to these 10 to 15% of the population? What kind of themes and what are the raw materials Ukraine has to work with to implement the frameworks you just described?
Thank you for the question. I'll answer it philosophically. The nature, the origin of a human being is very similar in different parts of the world. So people generally are weak creatures everywhere, and generally have their own, complexes and fears and hopes and instincts. So raw material, if you say that, I wouldn't say about people like, I wouldn't call them raw material because it's a little bit like inappropriate. But what I think, it's the same everywhere in the world. I mean, the rules and good examples and education and upbringing, they make their things and they make their impact and things are happening. I gave you an example of South Korea and North Korea, but you can have yours example. I mean, many of you, including yourself, are Ukrainians, but we're brought up in different societies. So you don't behave and you don't think like the Ukrainians who live in that Ukraine, in that Ukraine. And does it mean that you are better or worse? No. It means that you are given different framework. So, I mean, material, as you say, put it in different, how you call this, a form, and you will have different, there is a good word, I don't remember how you call it. Mindset? No, it's vessel. Yeah, a good vessel, right? So, it depends on the form. The vessel depends on the form. So, I'm talking here about rules. First, tools, how can you build these rules, and then tools. How can you, like the vessel you need, yeah? So I think that people, especially young people, 10-15% of this civil society, they are hungry for changes. They want to change, they want to get changed, they want to have role models, they want to have these new books to study, and they are willing. Probably not to the extent we need today. Probably we still have to do a lot, but I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic, but only when you implement and you gradual and constant efforts. So you should hold on all the time. You shouldn't, you should carry on. You should be there step by step, but don't lose a second of time. So don't lose the grip. You should be there. And I think that that's why I'm doing all these things. I think that you should keep doing and keep doing and keep doing. Finally, I'll give you probably once again, not a very proper, but still I like the religious example. When Jesus Christ was preaching, nobody treated him seriously. I mean, generally. And actually, his goal was not to create or establish a Christian church. He never had it in his mind. He was just doing things. He was living good life. And as he was that persuasive, that his disciples that went and promoted this idea, and it became such like attractive that people all over the world, like 2 billion people now, sort of use this framework. Like it's like, well, so you need to keep going.
So I hear you saying to be very pragmatic and practical, and to really be ready for a long haul.
Very,
This
very
is not
long.
a sprint.
No.
You're thinking in terms of decades. You're
Yes.
talking in terms of.
I don't believe in quick changes. Whoever will come and say, I will bring you quick changes, he's either a liar or a naive person.
Given that you talked about the top down and the bottom up, in creating these cells of different behavior, what's your perception now that you've been in the States for 2 months, a couple months? How do you perceive the role of volunteers inside Ukraine and volunteers outside Ukraine? And by volunteers, I'm trying to say like people who are not part of official structures of government. And how do you see what are the most effective forms of activity in your opinion?
Actually, I think that volunteer movement in Ukraine is probably one of these key issues that makes my narrative optimistic. Because I think that all of us were surprised in a good way and were encouraged and impressed by the role volunteers started to play after the outbreak of events in Maidan and the war in the East. So, frankly speaking, it surprised me. I mean, I knew the Ukrainian people are ready to do that, but I didn't know that to such extent. So I think it's a good news. What is not a very good news is that still people and even many volunteers, they do think in the box, not out of the box. And for example, if they have a very straightforward idea, like to help to hospitals, to people who have injuries, to wounds, and to heroes, and to families of the heroes who died. That's a very clear goal and very sacred, reason to help. And certainly we need to do that. But it's a pity that there are some more, sophisticated and probably not surface goals that people still don't understand they need to work on, like the civil advocates movements, like educational things, like going to kindergarten and schools, some things that won't probably make your ego or your psyche, happy in one day doing that. Because if you work with somebody in hospitals, it's not only helpful for these people, but it also, sort of gains your mood and sort of psyche. Yeah, you feel happy after that because it's a nature of a person. You want to do best things, and you do good, and you feel somehow invigorated, right? But if you do some routine things, which probably result of that, you won't see it. Probably you'll see it when you get old, and not even in a year or two. You somehow think, okay, I'll do it tomorrow. Somebody else will come in, and you need them to do that as well. So that's not assault, or it's not a conviction of some of our volunteers that they are bad. I take a bow to them because they do a great job. But we all need to go further.
So it's not, Maidan, I think a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their head around because it was sort of this leaderless revolution, aggressively leaderless revolution, but it was this crucible that spawned very tangible volunteer efforts. Now it's the long, hard slog of what you're talking about, which is 10 years down the road or even further. I'm going to open it up to questions in just a minute. But I wanted if you could comment, given your career and your work now, and actually throughout your whole career, you have worked a lot with people in other countries. How do you see people, I mean, how are your colleagues around the world, specifically in the Russian Federation, reacting to your work today?
First of all, I don't think that I do something that should, put some, special discussion within the circle of my colleagues in Russian Federation. I don't know when I do something they should think about. I mean, they do have other things to think about. I'm not somebody like that great and important in their life. They need to keep thinking about themselves. Secondly, most of friends of mine who live in Russia somehow turned out to be people with whom I don't have significant major, contradictions or controversy. There is no controversy between us. So I don't have a single person in whom I disappointed, or a single person who thinks in a way that I wouldn't seem him or her to faith. That not only means that all of them are good or so pro-Ukrainian, that also means that I also value people very honest, and I don't ask from people more than I can give. And I don't judge people. I always try to follow that, once again, biblical principle. Don't judge and you won't be judged. So I just think that people have their own choices. Don't have anybody in my close circle who really treats Ukraine with contempt or I don't have them. So I never had them in my circle. I don't have them. So we don't have any disappointment. I don't know what to say. I'm happy that the vast majority of our fans also understand our own position. They probably do not share all our views, my views, which is normal and acceptable and understood. But as I understand and as I feel, the majority of our fans in Russia, they do understand and do accept what is my ideas. And actually, my idea was never and will never be anti-some country. I don't treat people by their passports, and I don't value people by their passports. I do people by their deeds, even not by their work, but their deeds.
Thanks. I'm going to open it up to questions. I see there are 2 microphones here. If you can come up and please say your name. As an American, say your name. Okay? And then ask your question, and please keep it to questions. Thanks. Go ahead.
Hi. My name is Bogdan. I'm also a member of board of directors of an organization which is called Razom, which is a non-profit. And I would like first to say that I really share opinions that you described to us. And I would like to talk about, to ask about education, because I was, my friends didn't know, I've been talking a lot about it, and I really believe that this is the only one thing, not the only one, but also the culture, that right now we have to put all the power into that, because I have my sister, she's 7, and she's in Ukraine, and I see how she's growing up and how she's reflecting all this what's happening. So right now we just need to give them opportunities to become much more better, much more developed, because when they're painting all these ladders, they're sending to the front line, maybe they don't understand it right now, but in the future they will really take it seriously, they will get back in that. And if we will give them the possibility to be successful, to build their own country, they will boom. It's like very long-term project, but it will really give us that what we need, because it will inspire them to build their own company. And what is like not happening really right now, the last amount of money is going to education and culture. It's army, it's economics, but if people won't understand how important it is to have a large cultural and educational foundation. I mean, just look at the countries like United States, like all the Europe. They have very strong cultural. They have very strong cultural background foundation. So my question is like, how should we not do this mistake? How should we do that not happen? Like not to lose this power that we can use. And it's like young people that were on Maidan, they are ready to change.
Thank you very much. If people are ready to change, they change. That's my big answer. And then to verify this answer means that in your question, you have once again this paternalistic approach I'm trying us to get rid of. Once again, you say about the government and how do they spend money and not spend money. Forget about the government. There's no government. You be yourself.
But what I mean, like, I want to. We should go there, like,
Yes.
bring more people there,
Yes.
so they could establish that environment. Those people who are growing up right now.
That has nothing to do with government. That has to do with your parents, friends of your parents, your brothers and sisters, your classmates. That's what I was talking about a whole bunch of my lecture. I mean the whole bulk of my lecture. So I don't think that you need to long for things from government. I predict that because of Ukrainian poor financial situation, in the nearest future, nobody will spend more money on education or more money on culture. I'm not going to think that it's possible. Not because they don't want to, they don't have the money. So what you need to do is, once again, ask not for the country what the country did for you, ask what you did for the country. I never, me personally, I have never got a penny from Ukrainian government, from Ukrainian country. Never. Nobody helped me. I never asked for that. I never came and said, help me develop our culture. I just did it what I could, step by step. And somehow I succeeded. So I think it's a good example. Once again, why not to have that as a role model? So you're here, in a couple of years you'll be brighter and more intelligent than now because you are in a good place to study. So take this knowledge and implement it. Come back. Once again, when disciples of Christ were not asking of Roman Empire government to give them something to implement this. They were crucified, but 200 years after that, or 300 after years, the Emperor Constantine baptized himself. He was baptized. So implement your efforts. Sometimes people say to me, okay, but it will take us so long. I mean, yes, so what? So it doesn't mean that we don't need to do that. Just stop relying on the government. It's my personal advice. And while do that, you'll bring up more people who will then be in government, which is probably will be better than today.
But you were talking about this program
I don't care. Just see, if there is an argument, you give me a point, because I just don't want people to shut them up, you know?
I've been talking, you said about the program, like exchange students, like 500 million for students. So this requires government, right?
Yeah, that's true. But it's not to give, what you say that it's just populistic thing. Please ask government to spend more money for culture. They don't have that money. They just don't have it. So what are we talking about? It's different. What I say, it's instead of asking for javelins of US government, ask them for money or stipends for our
Well,
brand
actually, let me
students.
hold that thread, right, I get it now. Because as people in the United States who have traveled to Ukraine, right, we start with that, we are in a position to voice our opinions about increasing educational exchanges to Ukraine, which are already increasing, increasing cultural exchanges. That's how we can make our voices heard here in a way that would benefit Ukraine directly. I think that's
Absolutely.
kind of just to tie
Absolutely.
that together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Are we alternating?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so my name is Dana. This actually kind of stems from the previous question, and it made me think of like my experience this summer in Ukraine. I was talking to my friends from Tunisia, and they're in college right now, and a lot of them, I was really worried, I guess like disturbed by what their experience in college, because the fact that like when applying to college, you have to, I guess the idea of bribes is a thing that's very existent, and it kind of, in a way, stagnates the development of people in the college, in the college age. And I think that it's also one of the reasons why a lot of students in Ukraine right now are maybe motivated to go study abroad or just leave Ukraine in general for more opportunities. So I was just wondering, what are some of your ideas of how to prevent that?
First of all, I don't see any problem that many students from Ukraine want to go study abroad. I think that's a good trend, and I only invite this trend, and I only, I support it. Secondly, frankly speaking, the system of, how we call it, external independent evaluation in Ukraine, зовнішнє незалежне оцінювання, is
Standardized tests that people take to get into
Yeah.
university.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so they changed that. Probably not 100% of corruption, vanished by that, but they changed a lot, and that's one of these gradual reforms. So now I really know that it's much easier for a talented student from after high school to apply for the best Ukrainian universities. It's probably there are some still, underwater rocks, and you still have something, but it really dramatically changed. I know that. I see the students today in the universities, especially in Kyiv universities, they are like probably the most prestigious and among the best, with those who provide the best education. So students, the quality of students slightly changed. Probably it's still not what we want to have, but once again, Rome wasn't built in a day. So the whole idea of my lecture today is gradual reforms. I just don't believe in great leapfrogs. We know what was the great leapfrog in China in the 50s.
Thank you.
Hi, Slava, dear guests. I have 3 points to say. First of all, thank you so much for accepting our invitation. We're very grateful you're here today. Second point is, just wanted to mention, it's not a question, that Ukraine has always been a democratic country, because we have a history of Cossacks and Hetmans who were chosen by people, and I believe that we have democracy in our genes. We just got lost somehow on our path. The third point is, I'm studying economics here, and we all know for Ukraine and any other country to be economically prosperous, it needs to have, as you mentioned, a better judicial system and get rid of corruption. As a follow-up to the previous question, we all know when our kids go to school on 1st of September, they must bring flowers because, I mean, this is something that is accepted. When there is a new year, you need to bring candies or perfume. Otherwise, you might not get, I don't know, such a good experience later on. I feel like this is something that is engraved in kids' mentality or mindset, whatever you like to call it. And this is how people are brought up in Ukraine. So it's not only from up to bottom, but it's from bottom up. And later on in life, people cannot request from the government, and it's kind of perceived as normal to have corruption on different levels, because that's how we were brought up. So my question is, what are some of the strategies, concrete things we could do, few possible ways to get rid of that? And actually, do you see this as a threat to our
Thank you
nation?
very much. Good question. I will probably a little bit just surprise you. When will say that the habits of corruption, actually they exist in every society, and different strange rules, they exist in every society, and corruption is not the biggest obstacle for Ukraine to prosperity. We have many countries in the world with established corruption, and still on state level in many Asian countries who are prospering now, they do have that. It's just a tradition. And once again, I'll come back to corruption later, but once again, you say about traditions to bring flowers. Therefore, Americans, that tradition is strange. Yeah, but for many Europeans, it's also a strange tradition that you have to pay compulsory tips in American restaurants, which up to 125%. It's also strange, but somehow you live in that with that. So I mean, by that I don't attack these things. I just accept it as a rule within a society. So corruption is bad. Or I mean, these things, habits are bad when they change the perception of law. That is not the notion that you give, or not a framework when you give some gifts to people, or it's Asian behavior. It's not only Ukrainian. It's many Eastern cultures do have that. It becomes really bad when it alters the work of judicial system and the rule of law. The first thing which should be implemented is the law is equal for everybody. That's either everybody should bring flowers officially, and that's good. No, I mean, yeah, that works.
Transparent.
Or nobody is allowed to bring them, but it's a choice of people. And when the corruption becomes bad, or I mean, the things become bad when the teacher starts treat people differently after some of them bring flowers or not. And that the same when the waiter in the restaurant in America treats you differently because you didn't have the tips to him. That's a bad thing, because it's just tips and not a thing you need compulsory to pay. And that's also a problem. So you need to fight not the way of giving gifts or paying some things, but to make that how you say that?
By choice.
By choice. I mean, you should either make it officially or just get rid of that. And that brings us to the point when you have a law which you implement to everybody. However bad that law is much better when you have a good law but implemented only to some people and do not to some others. So that's a problem, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just wanted to say one more point, that it's a great idea, since many of our people got used to bringing gifts, but not to create a law so they officially pay to the...
Or while you're here, go to any public school, learn how the Parent-Teacher Association works, and raises hundreds of thousands of dollars. Parent of two public school kids, we raised $300,000 for our kids' elementary school last year. It was open, it was transparent, all the minutes were visible, the budgets are online, but it's basically the teachers need money to run the school. So
Even in America,
operationalize
right?
that. Yes,
Absolutely.
New York City, downtown.
Yeah.
Operationalize it and provide that the fairness that you're talking about, that there's law. So there are ways to do this, and you're already here.
Yeah. Just do it officially.
Say bye.
When you do bribes, official bribes, it's not bribes anymore.
Доброго дня. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Vasil. I'll keep it very straight to the point. So when I look at you, I see the person that has successfully put together a team. And what piece of advice would you give to all these future leaders? You know, what's the biggest common denominator in terms of them putting together a successful team to implement what you lecture today?
There are many things. I don't think that I can name you one. But first it comes, somehow come up with, is you need to be patient. But not obedient, but patient. So it's like you should be ready to be wrong many times, to fall down many times, to fall down and get up, and once again and once again. You should be ready to tolerate pain. No? You should be ready to tolerate pain. Otherwise, and your pain threshold should be very high. And somehow you need to train yourself to come to that point. So my main idea is, it's not special skills or expertise you need. It's some, in English you have a good expression or good word for that. You need to have strong stamina. Stamina, sorry. Yeah, that's what you need. And how can you, that's an interesting question, how you can bring this up. I think part of the story is Eugene's, but part of the story is also, you know, you should be inquisitive, and you should be sort of, you will always need to ask for more. You know, every day you get up in the morning and say, come on, I do it much worse than everybody else. I need to do it better. Come on, it's nothing that I achieved today. I need to do it better. But in the evening, you need to celebrate your achievements. That's what I mean. You know? So you come to the point when you see, oh, I got it, you celebrate it. Next day you wake up and say, you forget everything. So I have nothing once again. Come back. That's what I did, and I'm still doing all the time. All the time. I'll give you my personal example. So when coming to Yale, I saw my peers, my cohort, my friends, my colleagues. Fellows. They
all
are,
over the world.
yeah. They're so successful in different things. And they are like, believe me, they are like, I look at their achievements. I know that they as well look at mine, but I mean, I said, come on, it's great, it's unbelievable. They know so many things. So I want to be like them, you know. And I start to study hard, to learn many things. 80% of my fellows are native English speakers, although they come from different countries. So some of them, for example,
The Empire, the British Empire.
yeah, some of them, for example, we have a great, I can say girl because we're friends, but she's a already grown-up girl. A great lady from, she's Iraqi origin. She's a very famous journalist based in London. She's like extraordinarily smart and intelligent. We have the other lady from Indonesia who used to study at the high school in the States and lived there for a long time. We have guys from India, we have guys from South Africa, from Cameroon. All of them speak English as their main language. When I sit next to them, I think, come on, I need to improve my knowledge of English. So what I do, when I read all the time, I put down all the words I don't know. It annoys me very much. It's like a pain in the ass. But I keep doing it every day, every time. at least 10 words a day, I need to do that. And it helps. No, it helps gradually, step by step, it works. It's not that like in 2 months I know 5,000 words more. No, but just even 200 words more. It gives you something, some new. At least, you know, I was reading a book on eloquence. We read a lot of books, and one of the books on Reagan's eloquence and his like manner of speech. It's actually we discussed his great speech, which is just called the speech. Yeah, you know that the one in favor of in support of Barry Goldwater in 1964, when he was just actually started out his political career. It was a great speech, and there in that book they gave an example of the other great speaker, Franklin Roosevelt, FDR, who actually turned out to use only 1,000 common English words when having this his weekly fireside chats. Fireside chats, fireside talks. He used 90% of his words were most popular 1,000 most popular English words. 1,000 English words is like five grade school kids, right? Yeah. So, but he was great on that. So sometimes you need to learn hard, to study hard, but also to understand that somehow you deserve some sort of respect as well. So that's subtle things, sophisticated things, but you need to do that. Generally, keep going. That's my advice. Just keep going, no matter what they say. Yeah.
We'll keep going to the next question.
My name is Victoria. I would like to address a question of generational diversity in Ukraine.
What diversity?
Generational. So, being born in 1990 and growing up in Ukraine, living there until I was 18.
1990.
Yes. So I can easily speak for my generation, you being an opinion leader amongst people of my age, then we can refer to your generation. And I mean, you were 15 when Svyatoslav Vakarchuk, and there was those life events over life change, so there was probably a lot of impressions in that time. And then we talk back to my parents' generation, people who grew up in Soviet times, and people who are very patriotic Ukrainians, but see it differently than I do. And it may not imply so fiercely into your future but the future model, a lot of people of my generation are going to be still present, whereas people of my parents' generation might not be. But it doesn't plan to be present because we work with those 4 different generational gaps with a lot of different experiences and views. And you, being as opinion leader, how do you see your views counteracting amongst those different generations?
Thank you very much. It's not an easy question. I'll tell you what. When we have our big stadium or like arena, like a concert, so I see there people from their 5-year-old till 65 or 7-year-old. All of them are there. It makes me happy. That means that at least some touch of my soul, some part of what I'm trying to tell people, sort of reflects in their hearts, and they accept it. So that's about my music and about our art. So I think all generations, I reckon to say, or I dare say, are there. Then about political views and ways people want to see the country, I see nothing bad. I see nothing wrong in the fact that different generations see their country differently. it happens in every country, in all times of history. The good news for young generation is that finally they have more time in their backpack, and they have that advantage. Anyway, if they're patient, they will win. And it happens like that all the time. That's how civilization moves, and that's how development generally and sustainability is going to happen. I mean, it is the nature of law. So don't be worried that your view won't be heard. It will. Otherwise, it's anti-natural, and not natural. So it will be there. But what we need to do is to have big national, pan-Ukrainian, if you want to say that. I don't like this word, it's a little bit imperialistic, but still, pan-Ukrainian discussion on all these topics and issues and things I was talking about. So we should discuss it on the TV. We should discuss it in like venues like this, or like between audiences of like 1,000 people. We should discuss it in family kitchens. We should discuss it in coffee breaks of students and people. We should discuss it in classes in the school, everywhere. Coming back, by the way, to the school. It's great if we do, for example, two things. We should have like anti-corruption curriculum in the school, and we should have this sort of, I would say, like state craft curriculum in the school. Civics, yeah. That's what they in India call liberal arts. But I like that thing. But probably a little bit even more specific. So how to build their country. And I believe, probably once again, it's too romantic and too that understatement of real difficulties. But I still believe that courage, passion, and real commitment and desire to change is even more important than the intelligence and knowledge. Although the second is also important, but the first is more important. If you have courage and desire and commitment, you somehow will gain the knowledge. If you don't, you can be, I know many, frankly speaking, I know many intelligent and broad and smart people who, sorry for the words, who don't give a damn about Ukrainian future. And that's sad.
You've talked in other venues about how Ukrainians are hard workers, but not necessarily hard thinkers. Because thinking is hard work if you do it in a way, as you're talking about, of actually applying what you're doing. So do you see these frameworks in terms of a takeaway of things that people can do after today, is really kind of take this and use it as a discussion guide to get together with a few people and bang it around and argue and get pissed off and learn stuff and be upset because you thought you heard it one way when Slava said it, but now someone is telling you to start thinking it differently and your brain is like, oh.
Absolutely. That's what we do. That's what we try to, to wake people up. Because distrust is coming also from non-ability and probably lack of desire to think hard. Because thinking hard is a job. It's the same kind of hard activity as like doing something with your hands or like craft or everything. It's a hard thing, and the worst thing with thinking is that you never know, like you never see the right or the final, like you don't see that final vessel.
Mm-hmm.
You always are in the process of making this vessel or creating it, and people want to have the final result. Always, it's in their nature, and they don't see it, and they always, it's that uncertainty that make us feel uncomfortable when we argue. And one more thing, thank you for reminding me that Ukrainians need to learn how to to fight. By word fight, I don't mean fight with weapons, but fight like as a verb. To stand up for their rights, not only on revolution in Maidan with stones or even with weaponry, but go to courts, like go to TV, go to their schools to argue with the school director, the parents, or the children, to stand up their rights. We need to learn fighting, because fighting is what we really need. Not like straightforward fighting like army does. Like if we want our army to stay home or to stay in their bases, we need to learn how to fight without weapons. Either we will fight without weapons, or then army will fight. There is no other choice. We need to fight. That's the nature of the game.
You're studying here abroad, you're getting all this nice experience, and obviously you're coming back to Ukraine, and you will share some of this experience with others. So I have a personal question. How do you see your personal mission in life? Is it something that, do you consider yourself to be a part of like an instrument of change, a facilitator of enlightenment, anything like that about yourself? And maybe how do you view music as maybe a powerful instrument of change to bring these fundamental ideas about civic society to in this kind of like a personal message to everybody? Do you have any plans, or have you been thinking about maybe incorporating this into your artwork?
Radio show and Tomatska TV. That's who it is. Radio, Tomatska Radio.
Do you want me to become a politician? I don't. Me neither. I'm doing what I'm doing. Probably I'll need to push even harder, and I probably will. God give me time and ability and power to do that. But I think for the time being, so far my role is to make people thinking, to make people start thinking harder, and to give them the framework, or probably either within which they can implement their thoughts, or just to destroy the framework when they're not being. It's also good. So far, I think I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'll keep doing that. Probably will sort of institutionalize these things more. We have foundation people of the future. We also have links with the different other foundations. But I just don't want to be part of another NGO. I have many of them. If my role can be a sort of a moral facilitator, a moral trigger, or spiritual trigger. Sorry for doing it that high, but I would be happy with that. If one day they say that people like myself needed some other, field work, in political work, I wouldn't be happy with this challenge, because I just don't want to give up what I'm doing, and I'm loving it that much. It's a big sacrifice, but if I see right time and right place, I will. Once again, it's not a sneaky answer. I really don't want to become a politician. I just want you to have to get clear. Not because I don't like politics. I just love music that much that I just don't want to give it up. But I see, and the other thing, there's this practical one. So before we go doing something top down, you need, I believe, in more serious changes could be done in this bottom up. And where I am, that's where I am now. And I think it's much more important, at least so far.
You're certainly being very consistent in that bottom up and building civil society.
Yeah.
Because
Because
everybody
somebody
needs
needs
to
to
learn
do
to
that. You know, many great thinkers and people who played a big role in their countries, they never became political leaders or, you know, number ones in their countries, I mean, in an official way, but still they made a lot of good things for the countries. And we can name like tons of the people, you know, like Benjamin Franklin never was a president of the United States, but without him, I think probably independent would have had, yeah, but still, would have had good in France, you know. Yeah, but still, I remember reading many things about American history and revolution times, and I think he was rather like a person who inspired others and taught others, then was a part of that, you know. Although he's considered one of the founders, but I think his role was different, like the role of Washington or Jefferson. He was like 30 years older, and he was just from different generation. His tool was wisdom and broad-mindedness, and he just knew how to do things. And then sometimes you need these people as well. So actually, my ambition is, all my personal ambitions are already either fulfilled or on the way of that. I don't need, my vanity doesn't need, you know, to be, you know, how to say that? Yeah, fit and ever more. I'm okay with that. I see politics only as a tool. So far I think that my social activity, a part of politics, is much more effective. And you have earned a lot of money before, honest money before to go to politics. Because I don't know if I will be ready to. You see, it's a material challenge as well. I mean, probably I need like 5 to 10 years more to work hard before I can go to politics.
Revenue generating.
Yeah.
Unless, or hopefully by then the politics will change somewhat.
My name is Mary, and my question is going to be actually in the same theme. So you said before that there's a lot of young people, a lot of like people who are hungry for information, who want to learn, want to read, and they're ready to forget this past and start with like present future, right? Like start building. But there is a thing about people, they need a leader. And also like about the
They need
generation.
leaders, a lot of leaders, not one.
And also coming back to the generations, there is like this, I would say, bad mentality from old people who right now in our government, most of them, like majority of them, they have that old
Some of them
mentality
are,
of corruption.
many of them are younger than I am, by the way.
Yeah, but still, like people who are in there right now, they still have that like old mentality, and the people, majority of the people who are going into the politics, into the government, they all still keep thinking that way. Like the people who I'm talking to,
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
right.
a lot of them still think, oh, I'm gonna go there because I can make my future,
That's true.
my grandkids' future. So
Yeah.
how do we change that? If there is like a lot of people who are ready to do something, right? Because you said start from yourself, but they don't really want to be that leader. They don't really want to be in the top and be responsible because it's like a lot of pressure on you. So how do we manage that? Like community basis is really amazing because you can get together and like do a lot of good stuff together, but still you need to find a leader and you need to promote it, and so your country can get it actually, the right leader.
I know it's impolite to ask girls how old they are, but how old are you? You're very smart, very wise. You don't need to tell me that.
On the same page as Ukraine, as Ukrainian independence 24.
Yeah. So it's very simple. Yeah. Actually, it's a very wise analysis. It's not an age. So what we mean, what you mean, and what I hear in your question, it's not an age that forms political generation, but perception of life to life, and once again interface in which you will grow up and live and tend to choose your future. So I know many people who are in their late 20s and they already are in politics, and they like see politics as their personal career, nothing else. So that's sad, but I see some other people, especially many of them and most of them are still not at the top positions, but some of them are in politics who are ready to change that. And there's a number of these people is increasing every day. And I think one day we'll have a critical amount of these people and it's gonna change. Then coming back to leaders, that's true. And for example, if you guys somehow treat me as a role model or as a leader, I can be that leader. But it doesn't mean that all of these leaders should run for the office, It's just different things. Why me? I can be a good example, or I can teach, or I can argue, or I can, give like advices. It's also a good thing. We really need these leaders, but I think that bottom-up movement is something that depends on us today. Top-down movement is a little bit depends on goodwill, sorry, because I don't know, sometimes we find these people, sometimes not. Like Singapore was lucky to have Lee Kuan Yew. Probably wouldn't he have been that wise and committed and strong? Probably they would have done different job, and they would have passed would have gone different path, and it would have been different country. Who knows? The role of a leader is very important, but I think it's not more than 50%. So still, the ability of people on the low level to self-organize, to become confident, and to develop a mutual trust, it's much more important than even leadership.
So another example that you've made elsewhere is the idea of people living in an apartment building coming together to kind of make sure the area around their apartment building is nice. Or a pet peeve of mine is light bulbs in the staircases and buzzers that work. And I live in a condo in New York City, and we don't get along. But there are, again, transparent mechanisms where, like our building, someone comes and cleans the building. So that leadership, as you say, many leaders, can start very, very small.
Yeah.
Like you're a leader. You're leading something.
Yeah,
You led yourself
absolutely.
to the microphone and you asked a question.
And once again, I don't believe it's. You tend to think of quick changes as of some ideal situation when some good leader will come and strongly one day change everything, and they will and here we are. That usually does not happen in the history. Usually when you have people like that, first 5-10 years it works, and that person find him or herself in a position to preserve her or his power to become a dictator. And many countries in the world, for example, countries like African countries, like I'll give you a famous example, probably some of you who are the political sciences even have the case. You have Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe is a great example. When Robert Mugabe came into power, he was a very, he probably was not a Gandhi guy, but he was a good guy and very, I would say, progressive guy. And they were really doing good in comparison to what were they, like a colony, like Rhodesia colony under British rulership. So they became like very fast changing, and he was doing that. And finally, where we find themselves and where find what is he and what is them. It's like, don't rely on one person. That we should get rid of that paternalistic approach. It does not mean that this, tolerant democracy, 100% tolerant democracy is something we need to have now. I don't think that today, 100%, I call it Scandinavian model, will work for Ukraine. We need to have tough guys in the top. We do need. But first of all, not one. Second, we need to have a check and balances system. And once again, when we even come to Singapore, I think Singapore is a great example because some people in the US treat this country as an authoritarian country. It's authoritarian and dictatorship, authoritarianism and dictatorship are two different things. So what they did, they had elections. On all these elections, this party, I don't remember the name of the party, which was led by Lee Kuan Yew, fairly and honestly won election by election, all the time constituency by their majority supported them, and they won the power, and then they formed the government time by time, and they chose it, and they all the time they've chosen Lee Kuan Yew, they had chosen Lee Kuan Yew as their leader, and that's why he was like 30 years in the power, but it's that different. They didn't choose him as a person, they've chosen policy and the political leadership. So, in order to say that, I would say either you change the system in Ukraine, and let's get rid of like a president's system when you have just one person responsible. Because if you keep electing one system many times, the system, the person becomes corrupt. I mean, not only with the question of money. I mean, you're crazy because you're so happy and your self-confidence soars up that high. But time by time, people in the country elect you more and more, and then you are so got hooked with this notion you want to have them more. That's why they created these 2 terms in America, although they didn't have it before FDR case. Yeah, and many other countries followed that as well. Oh, I don't remember. Were you the first, or you just followed somebody? I don't know, because it was late in 40s.
Probably stole it.
Yeah, but anyway, so that's, from my point of view, 2 terms. It's not a good thing for sustainability if you have somebody good, because 10 years is not that big time. But if you elect a person 2, 3, 4, 5 times, no, that's bad. That makes a big negative impact. So what I don't know. It's a thing for discussion. It's an arguable thing. So probably we can come back to European system where really we have parties, but who run for the office, and then the parties have leader among themselves who becomes the prime minister or cabinet or minister responsible for that. So, for example, in countries like Germany, the chancellor can be in the office eternally. I mean, no, because like
It's about the checks and balances.
Yeah. But so you need to know. So the system should be, tailor-made for the country. I think Ukrainian system is not a proper one because we have 2 executive centers of power, none of them responsible 100% for everything, and none of them is impeachable because we don't have these laws. Even government, it's very hard to overthrow government or to denounce or to change the government, because in both countries, like, government is dependent on the parliament, on the majority. In our country, parliament members personally are dependent on the government, and that's a very tricky thing. I still don't understand how to deal with that, but somehow we're going to need to come back to a sustainable and predictable and transparent model. Do you want a president, strong president as the United States? Come back to very strong regions. Don't say federation, but still some strong oblasts and thing. You don't want to have that? You want to have weaker Kiev government? Then you should give them more right and to be bigger range of tools for them. So it's still a very complicated thing. But let's carry on and let's keep going. We will do that.
One more question. How would, your advice, how would you keep that fresh people who are ready to move on? But because of this, we're in Poland, or Czech, or Spain, or anywhere else, because people want it, they're patriotic, they want to change something, but there's a everyday breakfast, lunch, and dinner, especially if you have your kids.
That's
and,
true,
like,
people are
routine.
weak, and that's not, I mean weak not in a bad way. I mean, when I say weak, they always give up under pressure of some circumstances, like mundane things, you know, and you keep it, like, you keep it as it is. Like, I don't have a recipe. I just think that keep going is a recipe. And some people who has more courage and who has stronger stamina, they need to be like role leaders. You know, many movements in the West, in the East, in successful countries started from some simple things of fight. Not only, not necessarily fight on the street, but sometimes even some tragic sacrifice. Like, if you remember, the biggest moral torch of Czech like changes in Czechoslovakia in 1989 was a real fire. The fire of a dissident who fired himself in 1968, or when he protested against, like, you know, like against Soviet tanks coming to Prague, like, you know, during the Prague Spring, Prague Spring. So that's where new leaders like Václav Havel and others emerged. They had this wonderful and tragic and horrible example of that self-sacrifice. I don't ask people to go and kill themselves. No, they'll never do that. Your life is the most important, like, thing in the world. But I mean, you should give the people examples when they say, come on, this guy or like this man or this woman gave up and sacrificed much more than needed. And can I do just 10% of that? Yeah, it's like, you know, it encourages you.
And at the same time, it's a matter of expectations. What do I expect to happen? Do I need to keep going because I have to solve everything myself? Or do I get to hear? Do I change the minds of 5 other people?
May I ask you questions? Probably you. We are discussing, but probably somebody else. Is it an example, or is it encourageable? Is it encouraging for you? To see all these volunteers helping to hospitals and also going to fight to the east? Is it an example for you, or is it or not? Is it like?
It is.
Yeah. Like, I mean.
My mom is a volunteer. She's
Yes.
a therapist for the people who's in hospital. So yeah, it is. But I know this routine. The thing is that there's always like, you can do something yourself and volunteer. But if you don't have that base, like financial base, it's also hard. Like, you have to, like, how do you find that balance? How do you do that? You know?
It takes time. 20 years ago, people were different. If you asked people 20 years ago, although they were good people, were they willing to volunteer that much as these people? There wouldn't be that answer. No. Because they were like different. And in 20 years, people change. In the next 20 years, when you will be like in the middle of your age, it will be like the same time for you and other to take power in your hands and just to become responsible for the future of the country. So suddenly, like before that, you have it goes like this. First, you have some excitement, some movement, then 90% of people come down and you know, are disappointed and frustrated, but 10% left. 10% is still not enough. Next time something happens, next 10% left, and you're like 20%, then 30%, and in the moment when it comes to 51%, you're done. You're there, everything, but it takes time. You know, I know that it's not very good excuse when I say about, you know, England building their democracy for 500 years or America for 100 years. I know that's not a good excuse, and I hope that Ukraine is gonna manage to do it much quicker, especially nowadays. But just be ready to work hard in a long way, but don't stop for a moment. Because if you stop, it's like climbing the Everest. Have you seen this wonderful movie, by the way? Somebody of you know? It's a great movie. You should go there. Yeah. I just saw it like a couple of weeks ago with my fellows in New Haven. It's a great movie. And it says the basic idea there, it's wisdom within it, is the following. that you have a very hard and very high, literally and figuratively, goal you need to approach. In order to do that, you need to have many, many issues. First of all, you need to have expertise, to how do that. Then you need to have a courage, or once again, strong stamina. But also, you need to be shrewd and wise, because if you go too slow, you just won't be able to do it on time, and you won't gonna get it. You'll stop in the middle. Either they won't let you go further, or you'll just get bored. I'll say that. You'll get tired, and you understand. So you didn't do that. You come back. You lose her. If you do it too fast, you'll spend too much energy and time and force and literally oxygen, so you won't be able to come down. So you'll be there on the top, you'll die. I don't want a country to come on the top and then to collapse there. No, we won't do that. We have many big examples in the past when we had like this rapid growth, and that unfortunately rapid decline. Many places, there is a place in Brazil, in the Amazon River. It's actually a capital of the district. It's called Manaus. So Manaus, in the end of 19th, they found a rubber there. Rubber trees. Rubber trees.
So they started mining it.
Yeah,
chopping down
yeah.
trees.
So, and tires were made only from a natural rubber. There was no vulcanization. There was no artificial rubber, synthetic rubber. So this place became extremely rich. They had a monopoly. They became extremely rich in 10 years. So they built a theater, an opera theater, and they had real gold lamps there. And they invited Enrico Caruso to sing there for engagement. He's got engagement for 3 months, singing every day in a row. So he was the biggest name in the world, like Justin Bieber today. I'm mocking. Yeah, but they got it 4 months in a row. That rich they were. It's just in the middle of nowhere, It's in the jungle. Really literally. They have yellow fever there. They have all things. Somebody of you probably been there. I've never been, but I know. So in 10 days, they found it they discovered this synthetic rubber here in America. In 10 years after that, they were done. No gold, no Caruso, nothing. So that's another good thing. Some people say that we are not lucky to depend on energy.
Right.
How you say it? Carbohydrates, hydrocarbons. Yeah. So we don't have it. Probably.
So we have a decision that we need to make actually right now, because we have run over. So I think we need to give the room. Do we do one more question? Do we have energy for one more question?
We can discuss it later.
Keep going.
Hi to everyone.
I have a question.
Yeah, hi to everyone. My name is Yulia, and I will be very quick and short. So I see you as a messenger, and I see you have very strong spirit.
Microsoft Messenger.
That's great. So my question is that because you have very strong spirit, and my question is that what is your suggestion to support it and raise it and keep it up, and what is important for you to doing that?
What is, once again,
Keeping his own spirit?
Yeah, your spirit.
how do I do that? Or
No, what is important for you to rise it up and keep it up?
why is it important?
How?
How do you do it? How do you keep your
How do I do it?
Yeah.
How do I do it?
What is important for you? What like you doing and what is important for you to keep it up?
Sorry, still don't get it. Why is it important for you? Or what are the issues?
No, my question is, what,
How do you stay so young looking?
у вас очень сильный дух. Мой вопрос следующий. Что для вас важно, чтобы как поддерживать этот, и что для вас важно для поддержания этого духа? И чтобы его взрастить, чтобы расти, чтобы этот дух рос?
How?
Yeah.
How? How?
So that's Eastern European way of asking the same question, and that's American way. Of That's how I could see the difference. That both keep have in their minds, but in different ways. Sometimes you need to be more specific and more concrete.
That's right.
Actually, buildings are built from concrete, right? Not from same spirit. I think that still, I will disappoint you, but still part of that, I think, lies in the character. And character is something that we don't build up. I believe character is something that you have from birth. I generally think that people consist of two parts. I mean, their mindset. It's character, and you can't change it. I mean, it's yours from the very beginning. You're born with that. You never can. Nobody can change the character of a child, of a kid. It's his. That's it. But there is the second one, not less important, not less important. 50% probably. It's principles. And principles, it's bringing up and education. So both of them form you as a personality. If you have strong character and bad principles, you probably will become some evil guy. If you have like weak character or like not proper character but strong principles, you'll become a loser, and probably one day you'll become a sort of, you can be really feel this harmful experience, and probably will be a tragedy in your life, because you'll feel like, your principle, you're too kind to this world, too good to this world. And some people, like, they end up their life like very bad, like that's a tragedy. So there's the middle, when you're lucky to have that strong personality from being a child, and then you have your parents and your school and your peers and your education just to build up the other 50%. So probably I was lucky to have that. In my character, if somebody of yours have that in your character, just try to challenge it, because it's something it's a really big asset you have. So it's something that if you start doing something and you say, I want to be, for example, we need to, I say, okay, we need to have this discussion at least by 2 o'clock. I say not at 2 o'clock maximum, at least 2 o'clock. Then when it's 10% before 2, I say, okay, we need to have more, because it's not enough. It's 2:30. You give yourself like next go. At 2:29, I say 2:30 is not enough. You can go more, and you just always ask for more. It's a strange feature of my character. I was like that at school, at the kindergarten, everywhere. I just wanted more and more and more all the time. And it's not that I want more to grab things. It's not greediness. How is it? Greed. It's not greed. It's inquisitive. Inquisitiveness. You just like to have more. You're just curiosity to the life, and that's something that keeps you going on all the time. And every other thing derives from that. You say about good looking. Thank you for a compliment. I don't think I'm good looking. But I always think I do. Like, come on, I should do better. But if you're good looking, it's not because you want to be happy to see you in the mirror. It's because you want to to keep your health in a good position, because if your health, you're strong. If you're strong, you can do more once again, and your inquisitiveness will be fulfilled and satisfied. Just you want to live as much as you want, is just to see the world, to do things, and these things are so interconnected. And then I read a lot, and then I learn a lot. You know, these two months, you can't believe, but I arrived to the US for the study 17th of August.
August?
Yeah, it's August. So I came to JFK, and then I went straight to The Hague. For these 2.5 months, I haven't been to New York once. Because you know where New Hague is. It's like you can run a marathon there. I mean, literally, it's where you can jog there. Like it takes you 1 hour and 20 minutes, but I'm trying to go there. So I haven't been there, although like I think all of my fellows have been there. Do you know why? I didn't have time. I just was every Saturday and Sunday when I don't have classes. I'm sitting either in my library or at home, reading. So that's the first weekend ever I went somewhere, and I've been to Europe because of my concert obligation, but I went to this commemoration concert of Boris Nemtsov, like in Basel, which took place a couple of weeks ago. But generally, I study, and probably some people think that it's too much, and even I think sometimes it's too much, because you feel like, you know, my typical day on Saturday is like I wake in the morning, I study for 6 hours, then I go jogging, not to get crazy, and come back and study once again. But some say it's like, you know, it's insane and it's too much. Probably, but I like it, you know. And at the end of the day, I feel fine and I feel happy. So if you satisfy yourself with it, why
You
not?
have something to celebrate at the end of each day,
Yeah.
and then start again.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you for carving.
I'm having a weekend. This weekend I'm definitely having it, so I'm hoping to have a good time in New York today.
Yes.
Some of you even can probably help me to have it. Thank you everybody, thank you for kind words, and I hope to see you soon. By the way, I know that it's probably not very polite to be in one university from all the other
Very tolerant.
Yeah, but I'll have another one in New York in Portland, I believe on the 20th of November. So they will like announce it more. So if somebody wants to come, I think I will talk about some different things.
4th of November 20th. Mark your calendar.
I'll come back.
Всього доброго. Дякую, що ви мені дали інструкцію, тому що я б не знайшла. У мене у телефоні я послухала вас voicemail, і я знала 2 слова, які мені...
Оце, я тобі скину свій бачу туди. Це обміняємося і буде в десь місці, можемо пересіктися. Я живу в Сатналинці, але я працюю в місті, так що кожен день.